There's been another big update in the ongoing conversations of Lamar Jackson's contract. We talk about that. Minicamp potentially answering some questions for the Ravens, as well as battles and players to watch there. All that and more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. We're free and available on all podcasting platforms. So in video form on YouTube, you can like and subscribe to the channel. In audio form, you can follow along and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. We're a 5-day-a-week Ravens show. So Monday through Friday, we have you covered with daily Ravens coverage. Plus, we sometimes have some bonus episodes over the weekend. We go live after every single Ravens game, every single piece of Ravens big news. And thank you to all the everydayers out there, the first-time listeners. And if you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Minicamp kicks off for the Ravens, and to give a little bit of a rundown of the show, we're going to dive into some players and battles to watch in the final part of the show. We'll talk about potential big questions that could be answered during minicamp in the second part of the show. But in the first part of the show, there was an update on the discourse surrounding Lamar Jackson's contract, a big update from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, which I wanted to talk about. He went on NFL Live on Sunday and gave an update on where things stand and what the sense around the league is for the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, how that could look, the whole 9 yards. So let's dive into that here to kick off the show. Jeremy Fowler, again, went on NFL Live, and the message that he put out there, he said, quote, "The sense around the league is that Baltimore could follow the blueprint that Buffalo put together back in March when they extended Josh Allen. Even though he had multiple years left on his contract, the feeling is get ahead of that huge QB market money in 3 to 4 years from now. Just pay your guy now when he's got multiple years left on his current deal." I think that this is the smart formula. I think the Bills were smart for doing what they did with Josh Allen. And for those that don't know, Josh did have a couple more years left on his contract, but they extended him for $330 million, total $55 million per season. So they got Josh under contract because we know the market, we know the landscape, especially with the salary cap continuing to go up. The prices are only going to increase. So Lamar, when he gets his deal, I'm going to call it when, not if, at least that's what I'm speaking into existence here. When Lamar gets his deal, it will probably surpass Josh Allen's total of $330 million. But that number, the 55 per year for Josh Allen, did not actually come in as a top number per year for quarterbacks. That actually is still Dak Prescott, who has $60 million per year. Total value of his deal is $240 million. Now, if you want to get into guarantees, Josh Allen's deal of that $330, $250 million of that is guaranteed. Of Dak Prescott's $240, $231 of that is guaranteed, and $129 of that is fully guaranteed. So, you talk about guaranteed money of the total variety, then it's the full variety. So there are multiple levels of fully guaranteed. I mean, for Josh Allen, that number drops from 250 total to 147 in fully guaranteed money. But you also had Dan Graziano of ESPN, and he put out a couple days ago just about the quarterback situations. And for Lamar, it was obviously, when will the next Lamar Jackson contract extension come? How will it look? And he ended up talking about that, asking to top Dak Prescott $60 million per year wouldn't be ridiculous for Lamar, given the relative accomplishments of the two. Obviously, Lamar has quite the resume, a better resume by a pretty wide margin than Dak. So it would not shock me whatsoever if Lamar did surpass not only Josh Allen and that total money, but also the $60 million per year. And honestly, he could get a decent amount of that fully guaranteed as well, where Joe Burrow's contract, just for comparison's sake here, he got $275, and compared to Josh Allen's $330, he had $146 million of his guaranteed. So Joe Burrow, $275 total money, $146 fully guaranteed. Josh Allen got $330 total money, but only about $1 million, actually about $500,000 more fully guaranteed in that deal. Now, there are more total guarantees in Josh's deal. So again, these are the nuances and all of the specific things that have to go into a contract extension of this magnitude. We know how much of a lengthy process this was the first time around. I mean, look, if I had to guess what Lamar's contract would look like, I would say, yeah, probably going to surpass Josh's total value money of $330 million. It's probably going to surpass Dak Prescott's $60 million per year. And guess what? Lamar will deserve every single penny of that deal. And it is true where he is getting ahead. The Ravens are getting ahead of that. They are getting ahead of the market to come. And we know that Lamar's cap hit next season is $70 million plus dollars. That is something that the Ravens are going to have to get down if they want to continue team building, right? It's going to have to be a thing. So I think that it just makes sense for all sides. I don't know when this is going to come down. I think that it might look a little bit similar to where the Ravens and Lamar were at the first time around with this, where if it gets into the season, they will probably table talks. I personally think that's the smart decision. I think it is a distraction. And this Ravens team is focused on winning a Super Bowl. The last thing I would want is for contract drama to come back into this thing. And it's a little different because Lamar still has years on his deal. It's not like he is becoming a free agent after this season like it was the first time around and they had to franchise tag him and yada, yada, yada. But it's still it's been a conversation we've had for a while. There have been updates here and there. We've seen the Josh Allen deal go down. We've seen a couple of other big quarterback extensions go down with that salary cap continuing to go up, especially for, a guy like Brock Purdy, for example. He got $265 million. He got $182 million total guaranteed, $100 million fully guaranteed. So we saw Tua sign a big deal, and he has $212 in total money. Trevor Lawrence has $275. So if you're Baltimore and you're seeing guys like Trevor Lawrence get $275 million with $200 million of that in total guarantees, it definitely is the smart thing to try to get a guy in Lamar Jackson, who is a two-time MVP, who just had his best season in his career, who is probably going to have another historic year and maybe could even surpass. And it's crazy that I'm saying that because his year last year was so good, but he could realistically surpass what he did last season in a couple of categories and be even better. You want to get that because in my opinion, and this was, again, it brings up the conversations that we were having the first time this was going on. Every good game Lamar Jackson had during the year when we were talking about Lamar's contract that year in 2023, or I guess 2022 it was, 2023 was the draft. Regardless, he ended up saying, hey, Lamar's contract just went up X amount of $1 million, right? Lamar's, the price is going up. And for every good game Lamar had, that's what the conversation was. And he stacked those games together. And that money for Lamar, he earned money that year. And I think that it will be the same thing where the Ravens can maneuver around it. You can work around the cap. You can do a lot of things. Eric DeCosta and his team, the Ravens organization, they are very good at maneuvering the cap situations and honestly timing out these contracts, because it's not just Lamar that you have to worry about here. If you're Baltimore, it is, what does Isaiah Likely's extension look like? Kyle Hamilton, Tyler Linderbaum, Odafe Owe. You're going to have to think about Zay Flowers down the line, and you're going to be able to re-sign Travis Jones this offseason if he has a great year. What's that going to look like? And some of those deals have to be further accelerated, like a Tyler Linderbaum, whose fifth-year option you decline. There are a bunch of differing factors here. And again, you do have guys like Mark Andrews. That deal is going to expire, so money will free up. I have been very clear. I don't believe Mark comes back next season. I think they will choose Isaiah Likely. I think that's the smart decision. But we'll just have to see how it all plays out. We heard on the Be More Baseball podcast, Jerry Coleman, Mike Bordick interviewed Eric DeCosta, and DeCosta said that the Ravens were in the introductory stages. He kind of classified it as, and there were other guys that they are looking at. And we just, I think a day after or 2 days after that interview dropped, the Ravens signed Rashod Bateman to his extension. So they are working on things. They have signed guys to deals. but now it's just a matter of the biggest one that's left. And you can get the little ones out of the way. There's not a problem with that. I have no problem with that. But at some point before the new league year kicks off in March of 2026, you are probably going to have to get Lamar signed to a new deal, if anything, just to get that cap hit down. But look, hey, Lamar deserves this. Lamar deserves it. Josh deserved his deal. Lamar certainly will deserve any extension that he gets. Lamar obviously represents himself. So again, it's GM to player directly. There is no agent involved here. I give Lamar a ton of credit for doing that and for negotiating his contract the way that he did the first time around. And now seems like both parties are coming back to the table. So big update from Jeremy Fowler there. And it's interesting the fact that the sense is that the Ravens could follow that blueprint because look, that deal for Josh Allen, it pretty much like reset the market there for those top star quarterbacks. But it honestly makes sense, right? Where Lamar's going to ask for more than Josh. I mean, he should, if we're being honest. And so it's not this thing where like, oh, wow, Lamar asking for more than Josh. That's crazy. No, it's kind of obvious, in my opinion, that he should. So that's the growing sense around the league. If there wasn't already, rumblings and rumors about that, Jeremy Fowler confirming that. And this could be the new way for these star quarterbacks that things go, where we've seen it before, but obviously, you get a deal done, and a couple years later, you come back to the table and you give that guy the mega extension. Lamar already got a mega extension. Now we're talking the double mega extension. So coming up in the second part of the show, we will talk about minicamp. It could answer some big questions for the Ravens in the coming weeks and honestly months that we have been kind of guessing about. So be sure to stay tuned. A lot coming up on the show. First, this show is brought to you by Gametime. There's nothing like the NBA playoffs, the intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds. It's kind of atmosphere you must experience live. And this year's matchups are already delivering. The NBA Finals, it is 3-2 Thunder. The Thunder have to go to Indiana for Game 6 to try to secure their championship. And for me, speaking of championships, I'm a big Nuggets guy, and I wish I was there for it. But experiencing the Nuggets winning the championship in 2023 is something I will never forget. One of my favorite playoff memories of all time. And also, I also saw on the app, the Gametime app, and Zone Deals are offering 10% off exclusive zone deals for FIFA, Club, World Cup matchups. And I love that I can see my exact view before I buy, so there are no surprises. And Gametime makes scoring NFL tickets just as easy. You'll find great seats for as low as $100 thanks to exclusive discounts. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this Taco Tuesday edition of the show. Minicamp is the story of the week, and that's something we're going to dive into. But I do want to first play a clip from a show last week. Kadri Ismail and I, we have a lot of fun here on Locked On Ravens. He joins every week, former Ravens receiver, Super Bowl champion. And we were talking about Mike Green, the rookie class, and how they performed during OTA, some expectations for them for minicamp coming up this week. And for Mike Green, I was talking a lot about, hey, he could be a great pass rusher for them, not just now, but in the future. And Q stopped me, and he wanted to make a point about the Ravens and the win now factor for them. So I'm going to play that clip from the show last week, and then we'll react to it on the other side. Sack numbers, it's something. It certainly means something, but there are other nuances, and I think Mike Green can add to that for the Ravens this season, and not really just this season. I mean, beyond that as well. I think this is the potential to be, he could be the next great Ravens pass rusher.
I'm going to stop you right there because we ain't trying to worry about the beyond. Okay? Steve Bisciotti, we already had this conversation. Steve Bisciotti already talked about it. Who cares about the future? We want now. Now. Mike Green, now. Okay? Dafe Owe, now. So, whatever we got to do to get now. I ain't worried about Malaki Starks next year, 2 years. I don't really care about whether or not Dafe gets some blockbuster deal or not or whatever. I want now. This team is built to win now. This team is supposed to go to the Super Bowl. That's it now. We ain't worrying about the regular season because we know we got Lamar Jackson. He's going to be winning some games, balling, all the things. We want the postseason. So we have to have Malaki as well as Mike Green, them youngins, catch up to speed as quickly as you can because we want now. Now, N-O-W, now.
Man, Q is hilarious. Sitting through that was unreal. It was awesome. And he has a really good point where, speaking of it from a mini camp perspective, this will be the first time we've seen Baltimore's team whole or relatively whole since the season ended. The new look, Ravens, old guys out, new guys in, new rookie class. And for Baltimore, they have been the staple of consistency, where year after year they are competitive. And you do have to have an eye towards the future. Any general manager, any organization has to have an eye towards the future. But when you are where you are with Baltimore, the future stuff kind of does get a little bit tired here, where you think about Mike Green. Yeah, he could be one of the greatest Ravens pass rushers we've ever seen in 10 years. But Lamar will be 38 10 years from today, probably not playing anymore unless he is having a Tom Brady-like career, which, by the way, is not out of the question. Lamar could still very much play into his late 30s. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but, Lamar won't be in his prime anymore. And you want to win a Super Bowl here with Lamar, right? You have an opportunity. You have a great team. And I think, obviously, the work is put in all offseason. Whether it is for the rookie minicamp or with the OTAs and guys showing up. But mandatory minicamp is the first where it's like, hey, you got to be here. You got to be here. And the Ravens actually had their media day yesterday it was like an ode to 96 when the team was founded, obviously. They had a bunch of throwback stuff and a lot of cool things. And Lamar was there. A lot of the vets were there. And it does pose the question of, all right, is everybody going to be there? And I mentioned this towards the back half, the very end of the show yesterday, and I wanted to expand on a little bit more on today's show of, is there anybody that wouldn't show up here? And for the most part, my answer is no. Like, I don't think that anybody wouldn't show up to this. I feel like everybody will be there. There is the hold-in factor too, where it's not just you hold out anymore and don't show up. Some players come into training or minicamp, training camp, whatever it is, and just hold in. So they will be there, but not participate. We saw that with J.K. Dobbins a couple of years ago. I said on yesterday's show, I believe that was the last time we saw something like that happen. I don't believe that a Lamar Jackson with his contract, we talked about that. Lamar has a deal. He might be looking for a new one, and I guess he could make a statement. But again, he was at Media Day. I wouldn't expect him to be at Media Day if he was going to hold out or hold in. And again, like, you can show up to Media Day and then not practice, not participate. But I literally don't know who it would be. Like, I don't think Isaiah Likely's going to do it. I don't think Mark Andrews is going to do it. I don't think Adafeowe is going to do it. I don't think Kyle Hamilton or Linderbaum or anybody. Like, I truly just don't think anybody's going to do it. And I've seen the question float around on social media and speculation of like, oh man, this guy's going to do it. This guy's going to hold out. He's not going to show up. I don't feel that way. And again, if you are listening to this after day one of minicamp, then you know who is there and who is not. So, you can put in the comments if I was right or if I was wrong. And, we will have a conversation on it once, we get more information on it. But I think minicamp also will give us answers to a lot of big positional battles too. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the final part of the show. But again, this minicamp stuff is more of a tune-up for these vets. It's a tune-up for Lamar. Lamar can work on certain things. Derrick Henry can work on certain things. The big questions are, hey, is a guy like David Ojabo going to step up to the plate a little bit? And are players like Daniel Falele, Andrew Voorhees, how are those guys going to look? And again, there's only a certain amount that you can take away from the non-padded practices. You don't get those until training camp, a little bit through the way of training camp. So again, it's not like wow, you have to perform at minicamp or else you're cut from the team. It's a given. No, of course not. But I still think that you can rack up some positive momentum, and that's for guys like, hey, can Tez Walker continue his hot streak? LeJontay Wester in that rookie classic. That's what I'm talking about. But for minicamp, it is an important time because you are getting the work in with the coaches. You are getting opportunities to perform, and you are going to figure out just how deep you are at certain positions. And if you feel like, oh, hey, we're a little bit better off than we thought here, or if your mindset becomes for Baltimore, oh, we might need to add something. This isn't going the way we thought it would. So hopefully Bo Braden, Chidobe Awuzie can return from their minor ankle injuries that they suffered during OTAs. But it's an exciting time getting the team back together like this. And with each box that you check off, again, with free agency, the draft, rookie minicamp, OTAs, all those are checked. Now mandatory minicamp is here, and football just continues to be in the air. So it's a super exciting time. And coming up, we're going to continue to dive in to some players to watch, some battles to watch over this week during minicamp, and guys that could make or break a little bit of their standing on the roster, at least until training camp begins. So be sure to stay tuned. A lot coming up on the show. We are back, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still talking with you here on this Taco Tuesday. Minicamp kicking off this week. Lots of excitement in the air for Baltimore as we are getting right back into the football swing of things. Really excited for this year, especially for the Ravens. And, of course, here on Locked On Ravens, we're going to have all the coverage. We're adding on some new things to the show and, honestly, to the Locked On Ravens umbrella this year. So I'm really excited about all of that and to be involved with all of that. So, look, Ravens coverage is something I've been doing here on this show since 2019. This is episode 1532 for me. It's been an awesome journey. I can't wait to keep it going. And the evolution has continued to go over these past years, and it's going to only continue to get better and better and better. So appreciate everybody who's been rocking with me since day one. And if you're a little bit newer than that, if you're a new listener, new watcher, appreciate you rocking with me too. And if you're somewhere in the middle there, like I mentioned, appreciate you as well. Let's dive into some more minicamp players and battles to watch here. Is things will heat up over this week. I think we'll see some competitiveness from these guys, and not to the point where, again, contact, you're not going to get that here, but I still think that, especially for these younger players trying to make names for themselves, I mentioned guys like David Ajabo, Tez Walker, LaJohntay Wester in the second part of the show. I'm still curious to see Keaton Mitchell, right? Keaton Mitchell is someone that I am really looking forward to watching and hearing about during minicamp. If there are any clips of him, seeing those, that's a guy that I'm going to be keeping tabs on, because we know Derrick Henry is great. We know Justice Hill is great. Keaton can be that final piece of that three-headed monster that everybody was hoping that Baltimore would be able to have last season when he got back. But, obviously that he was trying to figure things out. Ravens were giving him opportunities on kickoffs and in certain spots. But again, what Keaton has said, what the Ravens have implied here, Keaton is back. He is good to go. And that's someone I think he's going to be competing not for a spot on the roster, but I just think for a role, right? How big can his role be? And can he maybe eat into some of Justice Hill snaps? Now I think Justice is awesome, and I wouldn't, Justice on the field is a positive, particularly in pass protection and some of the electricity that he brings, but Keaton gives you other opportunities, and it's going to be really fun for Todd Monken to play around with the three of those guys and figure things out. Rasheen Ali, when you're talking about a roster spot, he is the guy that for a roster spot I would be looking at. I don't think he makes the roster, but hey, if there's a time to impress, it starts now. It's honestly started during OTAs, but it continues. It continues now. Other guys, curious to see how D-Hop looks and hear about how he looks during minicamp here. Someone that a lot of people are excited about. And again, he's not prime Texans D-Hop, but he's someone that in a lesser role can contribute a lot, I think, to what Baltimore wants to do this season. There's only one football to go around, and for the first time in maybe their history, the Ravens, I think, have the best receiver group that they have ever had, and that entails having a lot of guys that want the football. But one of the great things about this team is that a lot of these guys are selfless, and they're able to understand that, hey, we have a greater goal here. I'm going to do whatever I can to help the team out. Obviously, the tight end battle between Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, and I am going to call that a battle here because that is the battle for snaps. It is, maybe who could be the tight end one. Mark is still a top 5 tight end in my mind, but I think it's for Isaiah. Is this going to be more of a 50-50 split? What is it going to look like? How do they want to divvy that up? So I think there will be a little bit of a battle going on for, I think Mark will still stay the starter, but I do think that Isaiah is going to be battling to maybe eat into Mark's snap share a little bit more this season as maybe he auditions for the future tight end role on this team. Offensive line-wise, again, it can be really hard to kind of keep tabs on the trenches, offensive line and defensive line during minicamp and these non-contact practices where, you don't get the full contact ability. But I think, again, Daniel Falele and Javorhees Ben Cleveland, guys I talked about, those are going to be the players that you're going to have to keep an eye on because we know the 2 tackle spots are set. We know the center position is set. All eyes on the offensive line is on that guard spot, both guard spots. And while I think the Ravens have pretty much telegraphed the fact that Daniel Falele will be the team starting right guard, which, again, I have mixed feelings on that, but it feels like that left guard spot between Voorhees and Cleveland is going to be the big battle to watch there over the course of the remainder of the offseason. D-line wise, not really a ton. I mean, can Broderick Washington make a little bit of a name for himself? Can Travis Jones take a next step? You know what you're getting in Nnamdi Madubuike. John Jenkins is going to be your vet run stuffer, so there's not like a ton you need to see there. I think his role is pretty set. But I think a guy like Aeneas Peebles, right? How much can he contribute during his rookie season? The Ravens will take any contributions they can get from their rookies and any of those guys. And whether that is a Mike Green, Malaki Starks, and on that defense, the Ravens have gotten a lot like Nate Wiggins last season, right? He was a huge contributor. He's someone I'm watching as well. I think for those guys, the rookie class continuing their momentum because, again, from the people we've talked to here on this show, from everything you read, everything you hear, that rookie class has severely impressed so far through the workouts that they have been through. I mentioned guys like David Ojabo, but I'm really intrigued about Tavius Robinson. And if you've been with me here on Locked On Ravens, you've been with me throughout the offseason, you have known that Tavius Robinson is my pick for breakout Raven of the Year this year. He is. I think a lot of people might be going with a Travis Jones, could be Isaiah Likely, could be Keaton Mitchell. I've been on that Tavius Robinson train for a while, even dating back to last season. Tavius had a great showing against Buffalo in the playoffs. I think you hear guys like Chuck Smith say that he is a centerpiece on that defense. They value him highly. He is an elite run defender. He is adding moves as a pass rusher. Tavius Robinson, I think, is going to jump out and surprise a lot of people, and we might honestly hear a lot of Tavius during minicamp and training camp, and he could secure a pretty big role. And again, a guy like Odafe Owe, with him adding the pounds, the Ravens' outside linebacker group, I think, is in really good hands. And I think that's part of the reason why for David Ojabo, he is not on the roster right now for me, because you do have so much depth there. Adisa Isaac, and he ascend in year 2. That's another guy that I'm watching. Inside linebacker-wise, is that battle next to Roquan Smith, Trenton Simpson, Teddy Buchanan. Does Jake Hummel throw his name into the conversation there? I would probably say not on Jake Hummel, but Trenton Simpson and Teddy Buchanan battling it out for that spot. And again, the Ravens don't need to play 2 inside linebackers on the field. You can easily play dime, heavy DB packages. You can just have Roquan out there by himself at that position, and then you can fill in the spots next to him. But I still think that the battle for the starting spot next to Roquan is going to be one to watch there. Heard good things about Trenton Simpson during OTAs. Teddy Buchanan obviously trying to make a name for himself too. So that's important. Guys like TJ Tampa, Jalen Armour-Davis, and the secondary are guys you're probably going to want to watch as well. Talked about Chidobe Awuzie and Bo Braid. If they're back, if they're not, well, then those other guys are going to have opportunities. Can the 2 later round corner rookies make an impact, right? Those are 2 guys that, hey, could maybe make a decent impact for them, but I'd probably anticipate that more being on special teams. What about Sanusi Kane, right? If Bo Braid can't go, can he kind of run away with that or Darius Washington spot? Or is Baltimore going to come out of minicamp asking, oh man, well, we probably need to go sign someone. Who is that someone going to be? Then obviously special teams wise, it's Tyler Loop, right? That's the big storyline there. So look, you got a lot of battles, a lot of players that you're going to watch throughout the course of this week for minicamp. And obviously then the team gets a break before training camp kicks off. So a lot of things to watch, and I'm excited to dive into it and break it all down. We'll have, Q on this week, and he will be at minicamp, so we'll get his opinions and a lot of other things coming up on the show. So that's all I have for you here today on Locked On Ravens. Thanks so much for tuning in today. On the way out, hit the like and subscribe button in video form and follow along in audio form for 5 days a week, plus more of daily Ravens coverage. Coming up tomorrow, it is more Ravens talk. We'll be breaking down minicamp and a lot more, so be sure to stay tuned for that, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.